Can you guys hear me? I can't hear you.
We can hear you, Kim.
We've got you.
You're good.
Yep, I can hear you now.
All right. Good to have you, Kim.
Thank you.
If you aren't here for what I think you're here and you wish to speak to the council, there's some green sheets on the back. And you can have 3 minutes during citizens' comments, but please fill one of those out and give it to the great Caitlin Weaver. All right, let's do a roll call.
Councilmember Tagent,
Present?
Councilmember Donahue,
Present.
Councilmember Dorstad, Councilmember Daughtry,
Present.
Councilmember Peters Hagen,
Present?
Councilmember Shipman,
Present.
Councilmember Ewing.
Present.
All right, can I get a motion to excuse Councilmember Dorstad?
Move. Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, let's get an approval agenda, Council President.
All right. Any corrections or changes to the agenda as sent out?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Okay, have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you have an agenda, Mr. Mayor.
All right, perfect. Appreciate it. All right, let's get into guest business. We got some great stuff going on tonight. Let's hit it with Waste Management Annual Report. And I spoke with them earlier and they're expecting some tough questions. So let's make sure we reach their expectation.
I was just joking.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Robin Friedman. I'm with Waste Management. I'm the senior manager for public sector services. I've been at Waste Management for 13 years. And I worked with city staff to bring the contract that you're currently receiving services for WM. And I just want to say thank you so much. We truly appreciate your support and providing services in the city of Lake Stevens. I brought the Lake Stevens team with me. Rianne, she is the contract manager. She's about to start in a couple weeks, but currently she provides public education and outreach services for our team. And my comrade, Chris, who handles operations. They'll both tell you more about their goals. So if you could go to the next slide, please. I thought I'd just give you a little highlights of the current contract. It is a 10-year contract and it started April 1st, 2021. You have weekly garbage, every other week recycled with a larger cart and 96-gallon cart than you previously did. And yard waste is weekly for subscribers. We provide 2 annual cleanups each year for residents to discard unwanted household items, recyclables, and yard debris. The next one is in April 2025, and we work with city staff to publicize the event. Also, with part of this current contract, disabled veterans receive a 30% or greater, they receive a 10% discount. And we contribute $5,000 annually to the city to support your community events. Just to give you a sense of who the residential customers are, we have almost 11,000 garbage customers, almost 11,000 recycle customers, and we have 6,100, almost 6,200 organics customers. And our next slide, I'm going to ask Chris to come up. He's our district manager for operations. Chris?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Chris Clark. I'm the district manager for our Marysville and Skagit hauling sites. I've been with Waste Management for 14 years, all in our operations line of business, and have been overseeing the district manager role here for Lake Stevens and Marysville for the past about 8 or 9 months. I do have to say that WM really values our partnership with the city of Lake Stevens. A big part of that is we are part of the community of Lake Stevens. There are actually 40 waste management employees that reside here in Lake Stevens. And so when we service where we live, we take a sense of pride and we really value that. So just to give you a glimpse of our operation. So Lake Stevens is actually sort of the central hub of our operation. If you look at our operational map, it sits right in the middle. And with that operation, we carry out roughly 45 routes out of Marysville. We have 56 trucks and 72 employees, ranging from drivers to technicians to operational support staff, all there to provide our service here. To give you a quick glimpse, I'll give you a glimpse into the daily operation of the drivers that come here and service your city. It starts early in the morning, so they're either starting at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. Our day starts with a morning launch, and so we get all the drivers together. We have a launch topic that can cover anything from safety to customer service or other operational needs. We tend to focus mostly on safety, and that's our core value. That's a takeaway that we want our drivers to walk away with every single day, and it usually always revolves around, safety is probably the number one topic. Once the drivers leave our launch room, they head to their trucks where they conduct a pre-trip. And the pre-trip is very coordinated, very planned, and very thorough. We check everything from tire pressure to lug nuts to hydraulics, brake tests, things like that. Once they head out onto their routes, the pre-trips are completed, they head out their routes. We've really started leaning into technology, and that technology really gives us a lot of visibility on our drivers while they're on their routes. We can see real-time route status from where they are at on their routes, see which customers are being serviced while they're on their routes. And it also helps us effectively communicate to our drivers. We could send them text messages and voice messages through their trucks, so they're not using cell phones. That technology is also with our frontline managers. So our managers also carry around tablets that are linked to those driver tablets. So the idea there is that we have frontline managers actually out here in the field while our drivers are servicing, and they're fully mobile, and they could communicate and track our status of our routes. Another technology that we're leading into here with waste management is what we call Smart Truck. It's technology that we've implemented that basically gives us a 360-degree view of the truck with cameras. So at all times, we have a view of every single direction on that vehicle. That's a really great program because it gives us information that enhances our customer service. So we're able to verify with a camera shot whether or not stops are serviced or not, where they're serviced. So it takes a snapshot of the can being serviced in front of the resident's house, and it's all automated. It's not manually done by the driver. We also use that for safety purposes as well. It's beneficial because if there's a hazard brought up or unfortunately there's an incident, we have a 360-degree camera view of that incident as it occurs. So we use it a lot for safety purposes and things like that. The other item I was going to bring up here up on the slide, it's probably a topic that's near and dear to everybody's hearts, and it's something that's frustrating to everybody, and it's inclement weather, right? Inclement weather happens. We just had our recent bout of it a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to share with everybody our process on how we make our determinations on whether or not services are going to run on inclement weather. So just to let everybody know, our primary objective is the safety of our drivers, our customers, and our communities that we service. So when we are evaluating the weather, that's our primary concern. But it starts well before the weather happens. Before a weather event occurs, our management team is closely monitoring forecasts. If we see a weather event potentially happening, we start preparing. So we start preparing our trucks, making sure we have all the right equipment, chains, tire socks, things like that. Also making sure our people are properly equipped with ice cleats, things like that to make sure they're safe if they have to navigate through that weather. When a weather event does occur, members of our management team typically will head out into the areas of service well before our routes start, usually 2 to 3 hours before the route starts. So we're looking at around 2 or 3 in the morning. We're driving around our routes, other areas that we'll be servicing as well. And evaluating the road conditions. What are they looking like? Is there plows going through where we need to go through, or is it, icy, things like that, what we're looking for. Based on the conditions of the roadways, we come back to our command center and we determine what's our next steps. Are we gonna run as usual, as service or as scheduled? Are we gonna run on a delay? Oftentimes we've had to do a delay with the ice or snow and melt. Or unfortunately, we've had to suspend operations entirely for the day, but those decisions are made very carefully, again, with safety being the utmost concern. Well, that operating device. Yeah. Oh, next slide.
So, I just wanted to, draw your attention to this really lovely letter we got from a customer in Marysville. As Chris said, we take our jobs very seriously, especially because we have 40 employees who actually live, play, and work here. And our drivers sometimes develop very unique relationships with their customers. This is just an example, a letter that somebody sent us about the level of engagement our driver had with him and his grandson. And I just wanted to share with you because I know being a council member, you probably get a lot of feedback that tends to be negative. And sometimes it's nice to hear some positive things going on in the community. So I wanted to make you aware of that letter. Next slide, please. Okay. So this slide is actually the WM Lake Stevens website. So when a customer has a question or concern, they go to this landing page. And I just wanted to briefly go on, share with you the ways in which our customers can engage with us. So old school is you pick up the phone, you call 1-800 and you speak to a customer service representative. But in the last few years, we have been using a tremendous amount of technology to make it easier for our customers to contact us 24/7. So at the bottom, the last green box, right below that, you'll see to start any kind of service call with WM, there is the 1-800 number, Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1. Right above that, want to send us an email? Here's the email address. And then to continue, right above that, there is an opportunity to chat with live agents as opposed to calling or sending an email. And that too is available during Monday through Friday as well as Saturday. There's an automated virtual assistant, sometimes we call that a chatbot. That's also available for our customers. We also have in the box above that is an email form. So our residents, our customers can go on the website, fill out a form and actually send it in with whatever the customer issue is. And they receive a confirmation email that the email was received, and then we get to work on whatever the issue is. And finally, I want to point out that we have a mobile app. We have about an 80% rate of customers who actually opt to use either paying online, so they have an account online with WM, or they have a mobile account. And they can go in here and actually communicate with WM around issues and also receive information like we're not running today. And then finally, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a box that says service alerts. So as Chris explained to you, in the middle of the night when we're all sleeping, he and his team are driving routes to see what's going on in the community. And sometimes we can make a decision about not running the day before, but mostly it happens when people are probably getting up, having their coffee, and maybe starting to wheel their carts out to the curb. So our service alert page gives up-to-date information about, are we running? Have we pulled our trucks back in? And we update that in the morning as well as the end of the day. I also speak regularly throughout the day with city staff to give them status updates of when we're running, if we're running due to the weather. And if we do decide not to run and we need to service you, we come back on your next service day and customers per the contract may double load, no extra charge, the following service day. Next slide, please.
Hi, everyone, and board council, thanks for having me, for us. My name is Brianne Camden, and I'm going to be your new contract manager, really excited, and I'm currently an outreach coordinator for waste management. So, I wanted to give a bit of insight into where the recycling goes for Lake Stevens. First, before that, I'm gonna give you some insight about WM as a company. So WM is the largest recycler in North America and in the Pacific Northwest. We have 3 recycling facilities in the area. This one on the screen is in Woodinville, called the Cascade Recycling Center. That's where your materials go. And then there's 2 other recycling facilities here, one in Tacoma and one in Spokane. So with 3 facilities here and 102 through the country, we have a very well-established series of relationships and markets with recycling partners. One thing I think people are really concerned about with recycling is plastics. And I love assuring people of WM's commitment as a company to not send plastics to any country beyond North America. So all plastics that are recycled in America stay in America for going on to their next lifetime material. And that is just one of the things we do. We call it doing the right thing the right way. It's how we live our commitments and our values every day. But on this slide, I'm just going to highlight some information. I don't know if you can see, but some information about where Lake Stevens Recycling goes, which is the Cascade Recycling Center. And this center is state of the art. It had amazing upgrades in 2023 to equip it with newer state of the art technology, which allows us to process more material more quickly and ensure higher quality of the materials that we're sorting. One of those machines are optical sorters. They analyze materials along conveyor belts. They look like little human eyeballs, but they're processing 600 pieces of material per minute. It's amazing to see in action. The Cascade Recycling Center sorts and bales tin, scrap metal, aluminum cans, paper and cardboard, glass jars and bottles. Finally, plastic bottles, jugs, and tubs to be made into products. So we have the capacity to process about 650 tons of material per day. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 3-4 times the size of this, or the tonnage of the Statue of Liberty. So it's a lot of material that we're processing. We want to invite the community of Lake Stevens to join us for tours of the Cascade Recycling Center in Woodinville. You can check out our WMNorthwest.com website, the one that Ron showed, for in-person and virtual tours. We have a schedule on the WM Northwest website. When you click on recycling centers. And we have a free virtual tour this Friday, actually, February 28th. Everyone's available from 12 to 1 p.m. It's free in the summer. So, our next slide, I'm just gonna back off this to show a lot of numbers and small text, but I'm gonna make this come to life for you and explain what that is. So this is, we thought it'd be interesting and fun to show. This is a snapshot chart of how many tons of specific materials Lake Stevens recycled in 2024. So this is a monthly report that we send to the city of Lake Stevens staff, and we share again how many tons of material are collected and processed by material type. So on the left side, we have commodities like aluminum, cardboard, colored HDPE. That HDPE is talking about colored plastics that are like laundry tubs or laundry soap, detergent tubs, and the colorful kinds of thick plastics. And we go down the list of natural HDPE, which are the translucent, kind of see-through sticker plastics for laundry soaps and jugs and things like that. All these different types of commodities on the left. And on the right, you'll see month by month total of how many tons we're collecting. On the far right, you'll see the grand total of how many things we collected. And as you look at things month by month, you kind of see interesting trends. Again, hard to see if you don't have a printed copy, but there are higher tons of materials going through the recycling center around holiday months. So starting with the 4th of July, if you look down that whole column, you're going to see a lot more cardboard, a lot more newspaper, etc. You'll also see a lot more residue. We are able to isolate, or just kind of, what am I trying to say? We're able to isolate, is the best word I think of, all those commodity types, and in that you'll see residue. So that residue is landfill bound, and that's the best thing for it to do, the best place for it to go. Instead of contaminating any materials, that way, when we're able to, collect the residue and ship it away to landfill, we're able to make sure all of these other materials make it to their end markets faster, and they're able to be turned into new materials faster. But again, the holiday months, October through November, or October through December, you see a lot more tons of materials getting recycled. So that's a good thing. There's a lot more recycling happening during these months. And there's a lot of wishful recycling happening as well. And many people are just trying to recycle more materials at those times, so it's always helpful to recycle, right? So that is why WM aims to support public outreach and education year-round, like our free recycling facility tours and other communications to customers to highlight what's recyclable. The less residue that ends up at the recycling center, the easier it is to process those materials. And you can see the proof of the good work people are doing here. You did a wonderful job, Nick Stevens, recycling over 3,000 tons of material in 2024. So you've allowed that many tons of materials to have a second, third, or infinite life. So thank you for recycling, Nick Stevens. We look forward to 2025. I'll pass it back to Rod. Thanks.
It was Rianne, right?
Read.
Rianne. So I took a tour of the recycling center in Woodinville just before you guys close it down. And it was really cool. So it'd be fun to see it again. If I get a magic bus full of citizens, can we all come down and check it out? All right, let's do that. And then I also would like to know, like, how are we competing with our sister cities as far as tonnage? Like, are we doing better than other cities? Because that's the goal.
We have the data, so.
Yeah, we have data and we want to know.
I'm back with you and give you a little compare and contrast. to
Yeah.
Some of your neighboring cities, that we also service.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of bragging rights I have within my fellow mayors, so I would like to know if I have bragging rights.
I have a question. The wrong recycling, what's the wrong recycling do you see most? What's the biggest thing that's the wrong recycling?
Yeah, the thing we see most, that's a great question. Plastic bags.
Oh.
You kind of tend to confuse people because they're made of plastic, because they can go into the recycling. They cannot go into any curbside recycling, no matter the hauler. They can go to specific grocery store, depot, drop box, because they have specialty recyclers just to use and collect plastic bags. Another thing I see is chip bags, it's a lot of bags, like wrappers, those things aren't recyclable.
Gotcha.
Yeah, lots of little residue, I think,
Great.
smaller things.
Well, also I discovered this just by a note that was on my recycle bin, that if you have a paper shredder, you can't bag it. So when you empty my recycle, it probably looks like confetti because we can't bag shredded paper, correct?
You actually, can't accept shredded paper as is, and when you see, I hope everyone can come to a recycling tour ASAP, but if you're available for the one on Friday, you'll see these conveyor belts taking the materials in all different directions, so the recycling, the shredded paper does just turn it.
So it's trash.
So it would be trash.
Okay.
Or you can take it to, I believe UPS is the shredding service inside their facilities. Another specialty recycler that just does shredding, and takes shredded paper. Yeah, that's another thing, like business cars, small tiny things, they fly around, so just to tie those questions together.
good, yeah.
So I have a question. On your chart here, you're showing what the different commodities. Why is it that we have so many zeros in different plastics? Is that a training issue to the citizens, or are you not accepting those types of things, or what is it?
There's a couple of reasons. First, it is a tonnage, and so it's by weight. Plastic bags are really light, so they may not register, but we also aren't accepting, like, for example, see zeros out of plastic films. Plastics 3 through 7 are things like clamshell, salad containers. So they may just be plastics that are lumped back down into residue, but I don't have the perfect answer.
So I have an answer. So this is a very generic list. This isn't, the tonnage is Lake Stevens, but the commodity list on the left-hand side is a generic list that's part of our software. And what I think is interesting about your question is, you can go to another city and they may have a different recycling list. You may go to a different county and they have a different recycling list. You could go to another state and find that something's getting recycled there or not getting recycled there, that's getting recycled here. So this is a very general list that we use with all our cities. And so when you see zeros, it just may not be part of the recycling program in this area or for this city. But I do want to make another point about glass. We didn't mention glass, and maybe you have read about what's going on with glass. So currently, we take all our glass to a glass recycler in the city of Seattle. And we have a contract with SMI, and they recycle glass, make new bottles. It's a very difficult marketplace for glass. Virgin glass is actually less expensive than recycling glass. So our recycler is really having a hard time really partnering with those companies that will recycle glass, because it's hard to keep those companies afloat. So we are the only service provider that currently has a contract with SMI. So we are the only service provider still collecting glass. Other service providers are now either stockpiling the glass, hoping that something will change, or they're encouraging people to put it in their garbage cart. So that's just a good indication of, here's a number of commodities and we manage that risk on an annual basis, hoping that the marketplace will stay strong for commodities. And it changes. But we're very committed to recycling glass, even if it is not profitable. That is part of our contract and our commitment to the city of Lake Stevens.
Quick question. Can you expand a little bit on your annual cleanup as to what items you take and how that works?
Do you want to talk about you don't have to talk about the Lake Stevens, but your experience with cleanups, or do you want me to do it?
I don't too much with cleanups, just to.
Okay.
Just if you like.
Okay. I'm not as adept at the Lake Stevens cleanup, but, oh, that would be great. So in our contract though, as part of our commitment to the contract, we do provide 2 cleanups a year. And then it'll be managed by our operations team. So I'll let Chris talk about the details of the cleanup.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's coming up in April. The idea is it's household bulky items and garbage. So bulky items would be things like, pieces of furniture that you're getting rid of, bags, trash, yard debris, bags, and tires. Yes, there's a form that's in my head. I'm trying to read it through right now. Scrap metal, wood, lumber, things like that. Items that we cannot accept are electronics, appliances like refrigerators and microwaves. I mentioned again, loose garbage, and we can't just show up with a bunch of garbage. It has to be bagged. Rocks, and like gravel, this dirt, things like that, we can't accept. We also can't accept mattresses are on the list we cannot accept. And cannot accept
Hazardous waste.
batteries.
Hazardous waste.
Hazardous
That's a good
waste,
one.
yeah, hazardous waste, yes, exactly. Think of things that are gonna go in our garbage truck, right? So anything that's special waste, we cannot accept.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
After this meeting tomorrow morning, I'll follow up with an email with the list and more information about the specific cleanup, so that you have it.
Perfect.
Great, Rob.
Thank you.
And I just had a few questions that came to mind when you were speaking. So when it comes to yard waste, it says for subscribers, it's weekly. Can your subscribers opt out this time of the year? Does it have to be year round, even though they're not maybe dragging out their yard waste every week, they get charged anyway?
Well, they don't need to take the card out if they don't have anything, but it is a subscription service.
Okay, and so they either opt in year round or not at all?
Yeah, You can opt
I'll
out.
have to look at the contract.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was looking at my bill recently. I went, geez, when was the last time I brought out my yard waste and I'm getting charged for it? So that would be a good thing to know.
Let me look at the contract and then I'll get back to you.
And then I know you do recycling every other week for our citizens that don't collect a lot of trash. Maybe they have a small family or they're really good at recycling. Can they do trash every other week or are they required to have trash collection every week? They're required every week?
Can they do recycling every other?
Well, recycling's already every other week, but say it's somebody that doesn't have a lot of trash. Do they have to pay for weekly trash or can they opt if they have, okay. And then lastly, when it came to your website, we have a lot of seniors that are not computer savvy. And I've actually sat at my desk and tried to contact you in the past. And you've got to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig to find, find your help phone number. I mean, it was time consuming. And so when I think of our seniors in our community that are not computer savvy, that don't, do a lot on their phone, they are, I know you say that's old school. Well, that's what they are, is they're old school. And so is there some way you can make that easier for them to contact you? Because you do have to dig in your website to find a phone number to call you.
Well, if you go back to the slide, I can show
Uh-huh.
you where it is and perhaps I could work with our webmaster and make it bigger. So at the bottom, below those green boxes
Right.
is where the toll-free number is.
So that says to start service. So is that for anyone who wants to call you?
Yes.
Okay, maybe rewording that because that looks like it's to start service. So that might be a bit confusing. Again, our seniors don't do a lot online. So I'm just advocating for them that if we were to reword that and have that a customer service number versus a start service number, I think that would be more beneficial for those that maybe aren't as computer savvy.
I understand. I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Did y'all have some more slides? I think
I think that's it.
we kind of jumped in there on you, so,
It's like a thank you, any questions slide, but we.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all. Yep.
Any other questions?
I do. So double loading the recycling, we just experienced this during, so you're not allowed to use plastic bags with your recycling. So how do you double load when your cart is full and you only have one cart? What do you recommend?
Recommendation would be cardboard boxes, any cardboard boxes. Other than that, any sort of recycling areas, so gas boxes, so things like that.
Is that language of extra recycling maybe on the website?
I got a lot of feedback this last cycle. So, and I didn't have good answers.
Yeah.
So the feedback was, why can't we put extra recycling in a plastic bag?
Well, I mean, just,
What do we do with it? Yeah.
and, questions about, hey, they have their garbages, sticking up a half an inch. So they get a letter saying they're being fined and, things like that. So people are confused by that. And so, anyway.
So I think at one time, Brett, I did tell you about those frequently asked questions documents that I have. So I think it would be helpful if I reached out to council.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Provided them those support documents and you can put them on your desktop. So you have a constituent that reaches out to you and you'll have this. You'll be able to quickly say, oh, here's what you can do, or here's how it's done. I'll send that to you for here.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
If you want me to add anything to it, I'm happy to do that. Other questions, perhaps it's not covered in the document.
Anything else for Waste Management? Hey, I'd just like to thank you guys for being here tonight, and I appreciate all the work you guys do a lot more in our community as well for awareness and with our events in the city. So I appreciate that. And don't look at Mike's smart truck camera because you'll see the mayor and his boys out checking his truck out all the time, delaying him.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Did you get fined for that?
I probably do. It's
Okay.
Extra charge.
It's okay.
You get a fight for it.
All right, let's do one of my favorite things and let's swear in Officer Sutton. Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. It's my honor tonight to swear in a new officer that just recently graduated from the academy. But I just want to start off to say thank you for Special Olympics. This weekend, we held the polar plunge out here at North Cove Park, thanks to Sarah's crew and the crew of the city. and all the volunteers. We had 120 plungers and 200 that showed up, so there's 80 people that decided to not take the plunge, which they're violating the law. We had 11 teams, and in 2022, we had 7 participants and raised $5,200, and this year we did 25,000.
That's great.
And it's still being counted out there. It's hard to follow trash, but let's get started here with Officer Sutton. Officer Sutton, his wife, come on up. So I'm gonna have Jason, who started with us on August 20th, 2024, he was hired. He got to go to the academy, which is remarkable, by October 1st. He graduated February 11th, and he got a fitness award for additional fitness work that he did. He then started FTO on the 14th, Valentine's Day. Sorry. And now he's set to get off of FTO May 26th. So in total, it will be just less than 1 year from the time he started, to the time he is today. What I have to do is Jason introduce his family, and then I'm gonna have his wife and his dad. Jason.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. This is my wife Taylor. She's my rock. I've been here with everything. I'm very thankful for her. My mom, always thankful for her. She's in there. She's always there. And no matter what, she's coming. And her boyfriend Dennis, he's a good man. And I appreciate him coming. Yeah.
All right, Mayor, can you come up? We'll get started. Put your pin on the badge first, and then we'll get, you guys can go out front so they can see it. Yeah.
You gotta get the pictures.
Yeah, get pictures. Yep. There you go, sir.
Need a microphone, Brett.
Yeah. It was interesting with this class. I think 4 or 5 badges fell off on the way up to the top of the stage from all the big stuff. Nice job.
All right, Jason, let's go ahead and, so talk to Jason a little bit beforehand. He's a Navy guy. We like our military guys joining the force. And, not only that, but an MP Navy guy, so. Gonna be a good dude. Go ahead and raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I, Jason Sutton.
I, Jason Sutton,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I support and defend
that I support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United
and the
States,
state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
the ordinances
the ordinances
of the city of Lake Stevens,
of the city of Lake Stevens,
and the mission and regulations
and the mission and regulations
of the Lake Stevens Police Department,
of the Lake Stevens Police Department,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially perform
and impartially perform
and discharge the duties
and discharge the duties
of a Lake Stevens police officer
of the Lake Stevens Police Officer
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Welcome and thank you.
Congratulations.
Be safe out there.
So I'll see you next month on March 11th, and then again on March 25th to introduce 2 more officers.
All right, let's go to citizens' comments. Do we have anybody online, Miss Weaver?
Hold on. You're not a mic.
Because of today. So much water.
Anyone in the online gallery who'd like to address council, please put your digital hand up and I'll let you in. I don't see anyone.
All right, hearing none, and I see no green sheets, but is there anybody in the audience who wishes to take 3 minutes? Gracie, do you? No? All right. All right, so with that, we'll move to council business. Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's go ahead and start online with Councilmember Daughtry.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to take a moment of silence for a citizen that passed away recently. His name is Dick Todd. A lot of us have worked with Dick Todd over the years. So just one moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. I've been sick for quite a while. I'm getting back on here pretty soon, I hope. A couple of rough weeks, but I'll be back. Thanks.
You're missed, Kim.
Let's go ahead and start down at the end there with Councilmember Tagent, and we'll just come on down the
Nothing to
line.
report tonight.
So I just have a thank you to our first responders. So Friday night, we were awakened to an explosion, a car explosion in our neighborhood. And there were multiple explosions actually. And so while the firefighters and police were responding, I've never seen someone come to danger. But it was actually pretty impressive to watch one of the first responders pull a 5-gallon propane tank out of a burning car, which could have, had it exploded, killed him. But there were explosions happening as the people went to do that. And so their quick response helped. It was interesting watching the police and the first responders work in a coordinated fashion. And so I know people have different views on public safety. But my personal view and my view as a council member is that public safety is paramount. And when you watch something like that and you call 911, you want competent, capable people that will run to danger and keep the citizens safe. So just want to thank Lake Stevens Police and Fire for their response and in our neighborhood on Friday night.
Thank you. Councilmember Shipman.
First of all, Chief, I have to apologize as one of your 80 no-shows. I had signed up to do the polar plunge and then was unable to make it, so guilty as charged. I also attended the school board meeting. And for those of you who may not have heard, the bond did pass. So they were super excited and very, very gracious and grateful that it passed. And as I said several times during the meeting, now the hard work begins as they put together everything that they have, set out to do and move forward. This was the meeting they have. The first meeting they have every month is in the district office, and they acknowledge both students and staff. And it's always interesting to see. It takes about an hour, the first hour of the meeting, but just how diverse our kids are. I mean, it's so much more diverse than I ever imagined, and how they really do capture various children throughout our secondary schools to acknowledge them. They also, if you're unaware, if you go to their website and look at their agendas, they highlight a school every board meeting. They have board meetings every other week or actually just 2 times a month. So sometimes you've got a week without one. And this last time they highlighted Highland Elementary and HomeLink. So if you look up and you see your school and you want to hear some highlights about the school your child attends or someone you know, it's a really good time to do so. And then also I did go to Olympia last week, and it's always nice to see our representatives and advocate for some funding for Lake Stevens. Thankfully, it wasn't terribly rainy as we were walking around campus, just a little bit of sprinkles. And then lastly, I'm not sure who put this together, but I got it in my mailbox, and I just wanted to acknowledge and say good job, because we were just discussing what are some additional ways to communicate with our city besides social media and our website. And I know these can be pricey, and whoever put this together, good job. And that's it.
That would be Olivia.
That'd be cool.
Olivia. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Olivia.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Peter Sagan.
Yes, attended AWC last week or I guess it was, last week. Time flies. It's interesting to note hearing comments from our fellow cities around the area that we're all kind of in the same boat dealing with this housing issue and the comprehensive plan process, and the mandates that are coming from the state are affecting everyone equally. So anyway, it's just good to hear we've got an uphill battle, but we're all in this together. So other than that, that's it.
All right, thank you. So speaking of comprehensive plans, last week I attended the Planning Commission meeting. There were 3 main discussion items. I will do my best not to butcher these. So Dave and Christy, feel free to jump in if I misstate anything. So first item discussed was an overview of the streets and parking regulations that have been identified by staff to be updated. I won't belabor those and read them all, but the specific ones are listed in the Planning Commission agenda or on the YouTube recording if anyone cares to go back and look. But one of the other topics that was discussed along with that was ways to potentially reach out to stakeholders who might be interested in those updates. So I expect at some point in the future, there'll be more information on how we'll be reaching out as a city to let people know about those updates. Second was a discussion of the docketing process to introduce amendments to the comprehensive plan. Again, the specific amendments that were identified are listed in the agenda, so anyone who's interested can go check those out. Importantly, on that one, there will be a public hearing for the Planning Commission on March 5th to discuss those. So anyone who reviews that list and is interested, please feel free to attend. And then lastly, there was discussion of updates to the critical areas ordinance, and city staff is currently finalizing an RFP for a consultant to help update the current level of, or best available science that would be applicable to those updates. That's all I have.
Great, good reports. I as well, last week attended the AWC conference as well as doing quite a bit of lobbying and work on in Olympia and meeting with our legislators. It is a interesting legislative session with many interesting pieces of legislation being debated. And I would advise not only the council, but our citizens to pay attention because many bills will impact you. Let's go to city department reports. Ms. Weaver, you have the floor.
Good evening, council. We wanted to come and give you an update, a public records update. You recently received an email asking you to complete a NISN affidavit. And so we have our city attorney, Greg Ristello, as well as our public records attorney, Andrew Soming, who works with Greg, here to just give a brief overview of what that is. Here comes Andrew.
Go ahead, Andrew. Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm muted. All right. Well, good evening, council. As Ms. Weaver indicated, my name is Andrew Soming. I'm a fellow partner at Ogden Murphy Wallace, and I'm here to kind of briefly explain to you a little bit about NISN affidavits. So I'll kind of provide a little bit of context here. So as I'm sure everyone is aware, the Public Records Act requires all public agencies, including the city, to respond to public records requests that seek to either inspect or produce copies of public records. This includes text messages, emails, and all city documents. Public records does also include records that are prepared, owned, or used by public officials or public employees in their scope of employment, even if it is on non-city devices or non-city accounts. These are, for example, your personal email or your personal text message. So with respect to public records that are on non-city devices, it is incumbent upon the city official or the city employee who is in possession of those accounts or devices to conduct a search in response to that request, produce responsive records to the city, and for the city to then turn over to the requester. In order to prove that the city does in fact conduct an adequate search for public records, the city oftentimes, or public agencies will oftentimes require officials and employees to submit reasonably detailed, non-conclusory affidavits, which attest to the nature and extent of the search. These affidavits are known as NISN affidavits. So it kind of provides you a little bit of a context of what a NISN affidavit is. Any questions, concerns, or emotional outbursts at this time?
And just
no flipping tables. That seems not appropriate this time.
and just council knows they've also offered to provide additional information in other ways if that would be more comfortable. We just wanted to come in and give an overview of the document you guys have been handed. So
this document is something that you as a city clerk fill out for the applicant or the person asking for the information, or?
So this would be something that we'd be asking the individual employee or elected official to fill out as they are searching their own personal devices.
And if you know for certainty that there's nothing attached to these two numbers? Do you still have to search all your devices?
Yes, we just ask for a thorough search and then just write down that you've looked where you've looked and go ahead and step in, Andrew or Greg, if I'm incorrect. And sign in, that would be the evidence of that thorough search.
Okay.
So when it says personal cell phone, I don't use it for city business, but I have a city phone. So I just say because it says personal cell phone.
Yes, and so we can search all of your city-based devices. This is just in the instance that a requester would then ask us to look for things on a personal device. So you're not going to see this all the time, but it is becoming a trend that we're seeing within requests. So this is the way that we satisfy that ask.
So for these two numbers, we just look, if we didn't find anything, sign off on it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So if it's helpful, I had to fill that out the other night. There's a section on there where it asks you to describe what you did to look. So I basically just said I went to the search function, I put in the numbers, no records came back, done.
Perfect.
I guess, like Marcus said, if you don't use personal devices or city business, there's no, like, this is kind of a performative gesture.
It's a great way for just us to document our process. Yeah.
All right, great. Andrew, you got anything else?
Nothing else from me. Thank you.
Greg, how about you?
That's it.
So I got one question here. I did the affidavit online and sent it back to, so now I can't remember, but I don't know if he received it or not. I got nothing back.
I'll double check with Brandon. He's our records management specialist, and we'll let you know, Kim, for sure.
That's who I sent it to, is Brandon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Caitlin, could you check for me as well, please?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. Hey, and Andrew, the mute thing's only been 5 years. We're all 5 years into this thing.
I'm a little slow in the uptake. I appreciate the patience.
We still like you. All right, cool. Let's go to the next one. Private stormwater maintenance.
Yeah, just give me a second to share my screen.
Did you? Yeah, I said, check my personal cell.
Hey, good evening, council and mayor. Thanks for having me out here today. I'm with the Taylor Pash for the surface water team, and I'm going to give a presentation on the private stormwater facility maintenance program. Here's a little overview of what we'll be talking about. So last fall, City Council provided direction to staff to develop a program to help private stormwater facilities and to bring into compliance with maintenance standards. The purpose of doing this is to improve water quality of the city, prevent localized flooding, and maintain critical infrastructure. The program focuses on residential facilities, but the structure could be applied to commercial facilities as well. Here are the three main components of the criteria here, and so to establish a consistent and transparent method for evaluating and prioritizing stormwater facilities. Develop tools, resources, and education for property owners to comply with maintenance standards, and develop and implement an enforcement process. This presentation will serve as an update to the program development, providing an overview and a current status of each of the three main program components. So you see here, this table is the criteria we set up for evaluating. On the top axis, you'll see the criteria 3, 2, and 1. Those are weighted scoring, and then down the side is what we scored them each on. So active HOA, whether it's a no, unknown, or yes. We have a homeowner participation towards solutions, so that's a known value there that we've been participating with. We've got contact with. They're starting a process of some sort to get their facilities in compliance. Stormwater facilities that impact structures within the subdivision, stormwater facilities that impact structures outside the subdivision, type of maintenance required to bring it up to compliance, and about an estimated cost to bring those facilities into compliance. And then do these facilities discharge directly to receiving waters? And then does this stormwater facility flood public infrastructure? So those were the main criteria that we graded all the public private residential facilities on. So some takeaways right here real quick on the side. We have 167 residential facilities within the city. Approximately 33% are without an active HOA. And then we have 78 commercial facilities, and these numbers are growing by the year. And so this is kind of the start of kind of being a transparent kind of document deal to the public to kind of ensure that what we're doing is fair, equitable to everybody. And so throughout this, it'll be laid out a little bit more clear too. So after the evaluation and ranking all of these, this is the top like 18 or so facilities within the city that are ranked the highest. On the far right side, you'll see the ranking score. So 19 was the highest score, and then it goes all the way down the list of 167 of these. But I just wanted to snapshot this top little bracket here. And you can see kind of what we're looking at as far as cost. It's kind of a little bit all over the place, depending on the age, type of facility, and what has been done in the past. So you see on the top one, our Evergreen Court detention facility is over on the it'd be the west side of the city, over off of 8th and about 87th Street is where this one's located. They don't have an active HOA. There's very little want to participate from homeowners, or they don't have no idea that this is a facility within their community. And so you kind of see what the red highlighted areas are the ones that scored highest and why. You can kind of get a breakdown of what we're seeing. There's this one down here that's highlighted in green with a yellow bar through it. That's kind of an outlier. You can see that cost is extremely high. That HOA is actively working to get their detention facility up to code because it is failing. They have a large wall on the one side that is bowed out about 9 inches. It looks pretty bad, but they're working actively towards it. So that one kind of throws off a little bit of what you're seeing here. But they're actively working towards it, which is great. So yeah, this is kind of a little snapshot of the top percentages of facilities and their problems.
Taylor, can I interrupt real quick?
Go ahead.
I think that it's really interesting to me that the data is. And so what you see is a lot of detention ponds from the 90s and the early 2000s, right? When that was the typical way we developed and dealt with stormwater, open ponds. The maintenance usually includes removal of vegetation, cleaning of the orifice and sort of cleaning of the outlet. That's pretty simple. The one that's an outlier on here is the detention vault at $330,000. That's the current way that we deal with stormwater, is we build a concrete vault and put it in the ground. When that fails, the cost is not $1,300. The cost is $330,000. So it's really important that when we're inspecting these facilities, that we're following the building permit and the building code and make sure it's being installed so that it will last. But also that these HOAs continue to exist and inspect these things and maintain them more than ever. At $330,000, there are how many homes in that neighborhood? 19?
About 19.
So we're talking a substantial amount of money for each one of these homeowners. We're talking a year of college. This is a big deal. And so as development happens, we really need to take a look at fewer detention vaults. I'm going to be honest, fewer detention vaults, underground stormwater prisons, and really think about keeping these things above ground and letting them interact with the environment. Thanks.
Yep. And then on top of that too, this North Star development was within the county when it was developed, was passed, inspected by the county, and then absorbed by us when we annexed. So just some extra background too on that specific development there. And some key findings coming out of that, we just kind of pulled out the numbers and highlighted some certain areas that we're seeing as trending. So about 98% of the facilities fall into the 1,000 to 15,000 cost range. High priority facilities are concentrated in older neighborhoods and or HOA managed areas. So it's not just developments that don't have an HOA that are having issues. It's everybody. And so I'll touch on some of the outreach and education to kind of alleviate that, but it's not just older neighborhoods. It is newer neighborhoods that do have HOAs too that are also having some of these issues. And so some of the common maintenance issues we're finding is just, sediment buildup, vegetation overgrowth, and then inlets and outlets being blocked, which those alone are fairly easy to, get ahead of and get on top of if regular maintenance is being performed. And like Aaron was saying, a lot of the maintenance deficiencies we're seeing are in older detention ponds, systems that were the norm for when the development of the city was being done. And so therefore you're going to see those ones are going to be at the top of the list. They're old, they haven't been touched. Residents don't even know that they exist, or that it's their responsibility. And so some of the explanations for some of the estimates, labor costs were extracted from our ViewWorks web application that we use for, putting our time, labor, and equipment into. So we extrapolated some of that out to kind of give us an estimate of what the costs are. Equipment cost was about 10% of the labor cost. And then 20% of it was administration, contractor, inflation factors, just to add into that. So we are always prepared to spend more when things do get more expensive.
Hey, Taylor.
Yeah, go ahead,
Real
Mayor.
quick, in that cost, are we putting in admin costs to bill each resident of those HOAs? Where's that cost come in?
That was part of some of the
That's part of that
admin
admin
costs.
cost?
Yep, on doing it on the back end to bill or let them know. So my next slide here is just some examples of some different maintenance deficiencies, so you can kind of get an idea of what these numbers are correlating to. So this one here that you're seeing is Evergreen Court. I don't think it's ever been touched since it's been built. They have a lot of trees growing through. They have a small wall that separates their facility and NGP area. And then there's the next one. There's another development on the other side. And so there's a wall there that's being pushed up by all the tree roots that have been left to grow. And so the next division over is experiencing a little bit of the overflow from them. So, these are pretty good examples of kind of what we're looking at when it comes to an older 90s facility. This one here is would be considered Parkway Crossing Pond North. This one's down on Lundin Park on the intersection of Highway 9. This is on the north side of Lundin here. You would never know this is a pond. Nobody really does, but a few of us here at the city. But it has never been touched probably in its 30 years lifespan. It's full of trees. It seems to be still draining water from what I can tell, but it's not one of those that are easily identifiable and are well past its compliance standards. This one here is Jasmine Place on the west side of the city. This one would be considered a really quick half-day work with crew. It just needs vegetation maintenance, maybe a little bit of cleanup on the inlets and outlets. But this would be an example of like $1,000 to $1,500 kind of redo to get it into compliance. This other example is an underground vault. It's called, this one's Avery Place. It's off of 83rd. It's pretty unassuming. It just looks like a big open field with this, that maybe the house over the side here, but it's connected to a development that's kind of a little ways away, and their stuff is piped into this open field that has a huge vault underneath it. The picture on the right, you can see is what we look into the control structure of. And this is what helps regulate the flow of the system through a small orifice. This one isn't currently in overflow mode. You can see the water is all the way up to the elbow pipes, and it's got chock full of floatables. This one is is in overflow mode because something is plugging it from the below. And so these ones are really difficult to assess on what is an actual issue without having the water drained out, which is thousands and thousands of gallons of water. So these systems here take a little bit extra to inspect, to try to figure out and diagnose, and then to put that onto the homeowners to then have a company come out is a pretty rough deal because they're really expensive to bring a contractor out to do these. This is also an example of the difficulties of these underground systems where the manhole cover isn't directly over the top of the control structure. So it makes it hard to easily clear it out to get it to flow again. If this structure that you see here with the three arms was directly over this manhole, I would be able to easily kind of poke something down to try to clear that small hole that allows the flow out. Because usually sometimes it could be a plastic bag, a bunch of leaves just get sucked up underneath it and it's not able to operate correctly. And that throws in an overflow mode. And so these are some pretty good examples of what kind of things we're seeing out in the city, especially with the private residential facilities. I'll touch on some education outreach. You'll see this flyer on the right-hand side. These were hung up on all of the private stormwater detention ponds to spread awareness that what they are and how they are responsible for maintaining them. This leads to a noticeable increase in awareness and conversations in the community. That these also translated to several education webinars that were offered by the Snohomish Conservation District and the city, and the cleanup and work group and trainings for some of these ponds. You can see in the middle picture, we had a workshop within a community's pond to let them know what they had to do to clean it up for the vegetation and what to look for when it comes to inlets and outlets. These have been relatively successful effort in spreading awareness, but it's still not resulted in all the ponds and facilities being maintained. The program will follow a progressive enforcement process. Education outreach will be a large portion of this program to move forward. And you'll see here, the left side, that picture there is the newer sign I was hanging up this year. These are more updated with updated contact information to either the city and or the conservation district to reach out for technical assistance to see if, myself or somebody from the district can go out and kind of chat with folks, whether it be an HOA representative and or a neighborhood champion, somebody that is really involved and wants things to be fixed. And I'm going to switch really quickly over to this link that I provided. I'm going to show you something that we're working on currently to get more folks involved to know what they have in their development in their neighborhood. Oh. Let's just did it not go? Switch. I'm gonna switch really fast for y'all. This one. Oh, that's not it. Sorry, 1 second. That's not what I wanted to share. There we go. That's the one. Okay, here we go. This is what we're developing to be a forward-facing website for the public and for these developments. Right now it's just set up to be able for a resident within that development to find their pond, click on it, and fill out a form to give us some contact information. So if there was something going on, we can reach out to them. After I do my inspections, I usually, if they're out of compliance, I would notify the development, notify the HOA that there's an issue with their pond and what they can do to get it back into compliance. Some of these developments we don't have contact information for. So this is one way to help get folks involved to kind of register their pond with somebody. But in the end, we're working on to get this website to also have my inspections put onto them so they can see what I'm seeing. My notifications so that they can know what to do or take that notification to a contractor or somebody else to have work performed to bring their ponds into compliance. So this is pretty early on. We're still working this website to be more user-friendly and to link it to my inspections and notifications to get education and outreach to the folks that live within those developments. Let me go back to the presentation.
I will say, Taylor, I think that's a really neat tool that active HOAs can really use to see what's going on with the infrastructure they're responsible for maintaining, and then also interact with you. And with 160 ponds out there that are out of compliance, we needed something to track it. So I think it's a neat tool.
Yeah, and yeah, to kind of piggyback on Aaron, yeah, it's very difficult to get the information out to a development that does not have an HOA. I just recently been working with, or trying to work with, the Parkway Crossing development off Lundin Park. This development's really large. It's split by Lundin Park, so part of the development's on the west side, part of it's on the east side. The west side has an active HOA in those little divisions over there, but the other half of the division does not have an HOA. And there's 4 ponds, 2 on each side of Lundin. The 2 ponds on the one side are being taken care of. This is the example 2 right here is before and after of an HOA represented neighborhood. After doing my inspection, letting them know this is what they did this year. But the hard part is getting 200 plus homes that don't have a representation to try to figure out how to get their ponds into compliance. The big thing I see when I get feedback on is, how am I going to get 200 people to come together to get this pond fixed? Or how am I going to get, this funds to get, all these homeowners to get these ponds up to compliance? And I empathize with them. It's really, really difficult. And so this is hopefully one way we can get some folks more involved to kind of get some action on getting their ponds up to date and functioning properly. And this is another portion of that forward-facing website that'll be connected to each other. These are some concept sign that we're going to develop to put out and to put onto the fences, or something visible right in front of the pond or whatever facility it is, that they can know the name of it. This is what it is. And then there'll be a QR code there that they'll snap that QR code. It'll be individual to that pond. It'll take them back to that website. It'll show them their pond, show them what my inspections are seeing, and then what my notifications will, give them to help bring the pond back into compliance. So, we want to be open, transparent, and have, these improved interactions with the HOAs and non-represented developments to kind of like put it in their court, empower the community to try to, take responsibility of their ponds to get them to go, be into compliance and operate efficiently. And so, yeah, that's this is what we want to kind of push forward to get going within the community here. And so the next portion, the last one really is the enforcement. And that's what we're still currently working on, is the legal language and legal enforcement we have. If the city was in a position to have to go in and do the maintenance ourselves, there definitely, potential, situations that we're going to have to do that. We've done some courtesy work on some ponds to get them to flow. It wasn't anything like to bring them to compliance, it's just to get them to work because there was flooding of public infrastructure. So the city needed to step in, which most of the time we have, our code says that we can do this. But then we need to look at some of the plat language code, or plat language that gets put on. Some of the newer ones are really nice. This example up on the top is from the Woodland Hills development. This is some of their plat language, and this is an example of what we want to see on plats going forward. Some of the older plats from the 90s are very, very vague, and they don't have a lot of language that gives us the ability to get in there and do some enforcement and do some work. So it takes a little bit extra legal language on our end to get in there. Yeah. And so we're still working through this. We've had one meeting with our legal counsel to review the code language and plat dedication language. The next step is to write a policy for legal review and to work with our legal team, department, and code enforcement to develop enforcement procedures with clear guidelines for enforcement actions. So summary, inventoried All private facilities, we prioritize maintenance needs of developments. We have education materials ready to go. Public facing collaboration and communication tools are in a work in progress right now. And then our last thing is develop an enforcement policy to be able to go in and perform maintenance on non-compliant facilities, ones that will never get compliant with the developments in current state. Questions or comments, please?
Yes, I have a question. Sorry. Let's say that we have an HOA taking care of their pond and they have all this vegetation that they've had to take out to get rid of it. Is there a way that the city can help with the disposal of that vegetation? Do we offer that?
We don't offer that currently. I think it was a kind of good timing there, Kim, with Waste Management just being here. They can probably work with them. I don't see why, we couldn't entertain something to think about with these workshops or, big events where they do a big vegetation cleanup, but not currently.
I have a question. So Aaron, you mentioned instead of vaults, trying to find something else. What would that, like rain gardens? What is it that your swells or?
Sure. Yeah, any of those are easier to maintain than a vault that's underground.
There's a lot of great LID applications for developments. We have a lot of developments. We have a few developments here in the city that utilize some low impact development style systems within their developments, whether they have kind of swales and rain gardens on each home that then, collect the waters off the houses and then, but end up conveying it down to another system at the end of the development to help disperse it into a NGPA open space area. There's a lot of different options other than the vault. That just seems to be the easiest thing that developers want to do these days.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the challenge with the vault is it wants to interact with amphibians, right? And so these vaults fill up with salamanders and frogs and all the things that want to be on the surface. It's really a strange quandary why the human species has decided to do this. I don't quite understand it, but here we are.
Yeah, to Aaron's point, even though sometimes like the older ponds can be kind of a headache to deal with, they are a best case scenario when you want to have, good wildlife within the city. They have the interaction with the pond, the vegetation, the water, from birds to ducks to amphibians, smaller animals. Ponds and those styles of systems are typically better for wildlife and overall water quality.
For sure. Yeah. Kim?
I just had a question when you were discussing, say there's 200 homes and they don't have an HOA, right? How do we get them together? Now, when those individuals purchased their home, was it part of their purchase agreement that they help maintain these retention ponds?
100%.
It is. Okay.
Yep. And that's the thing I actually find most when I send out the letters, I get all the phone calls for weeks and weeks. And that is the biggest thing is like, nobody told me, it's not on my deed, but the deed references your plat. It's on the plat. People don't know that they have a plat that explains everything about their development, who owns what, who takes care of what. And it's on the homeowner to know those things, but it's also a disservice that realtors aren't helping the folks to understand that process. And
that's, I guess that would be my question is transparency for the homeowner. For the purchaser, is there no requirement that this be, because you're signing pages and pages and pages of documents when you buy a home, and you're assuming that the people that are asking you to sign are disclosing anything of importance. I know anytime I've had to sign one, they're always shocked how many questions I have, because most people really do put their trust in whoever is presenting the paper. But there's nothing that requires they literally say to them, okay, as part of the purchase of this home.
Yep. Unfortunately, or fortunately, nobody's required to tell anybody about that. Like realtors, developers, are not required to do any of that. Neither
It
is
all
the city.
comes up on the deed though. When you're purchasing a home, you sign off on your title report and it shows right on your title report. If there's a retention vault and all this stuff. And a lot of HOAs try to dissolve themselves because they don't want to pay. And when you sign your paperwork, it specifically says that you are part of an association.
It's not a secret. Real estate agents aren't keeping it a secret, so they can, it's just not the case.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the agents. It has to do with they're supposed to have a homeowner association. They go, let's dissolve the associations. We don't have to pay. And then they have these vaults that have $330,000 worth of problems because they haven't taken care of it like they're supposed to.
I guess I'm not so much concerned with the HOAs. And I understand what you're saying. There's a responsibility with HOAs. But for the individual home buyer, I think this is asking a lot of them education wise. I don't think your individual home buyer that isn't represented by an HOA is going to have any idea of this. Is there any way that we as a city can change that? Because that just, it really doesn't feel very transparent. If I were to buy a home without an HOA, which a lot of people actually target because they aren't crazy about HOAs. And then to come to find out after the fact that we had this retention vault, right? That they seem to be more expensive, that now has this huge bill that we are like, Steve real quickly did the math on the largest one. It was over $17,000 per homeowner. And this came out of nowhere for me. Why is our city not protecting me from that? I think that homeowners, there should be transparency about this. And I don't know if we legally can't require that, but I think that I think homeowners deserve that transparency because they're not all educated in real estate. Most people.
I'm not sure the city wants to get into the business of ensuring that homeowners have done their due diligence on their property before they buy it, right? Like that's part of that paperwork process that you know what you're signing. And I think for the city to create some sort of injunction to make sure you've read it, like that's slippery slope.
Or are you talking more about like some kind of code provision that requires, someone in the sales process?
Yeah, and when you sign paperwork, when you buy a home, there's initial here, initial here, initial here. Can we have an initial here that you are aware that your property is attached to a detention pond that you are responsible for maintaining?
I've never read any of that stuff, but my assumption is I probably initialed something that said that. Right? Like I'm assuming there's some, like we do that already. It's just.
You just don't know what you're signing.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah. So
Gary, did you have some questions?
Yeah, just quickly, Taylor, you mentioned we got 78 commercial sites. Are there no issues with the commercial sites since you kind of reference plats all the time? Right?
No, there's definitely issues with commercial facilities. We just wanted to really focus on the public or the private residential ones first, because there are more of them. They are potentially usually a bigger issue. Some of the commercial ones are maintained by the property owners. There are some that are really hidden detention pipes that are under the ground that, most people don't know about either. But we see the most problems out of the private residentials versus the commercials, just with sheer numbers of residential ones versus commercial. We're just starting there. The commercial side of things it can be tied together. We just started with the private residential ones to begin with for this.
Okay, great. Yeah. And then it refreshed my memory as when a plat is dedicated and recorded, what is the city's position? Do we take the ponds right now or do we defer them to the homeowners association or the 1/32 of the property owners if they don't have an HOA?
It's kind of hit and miss from what I see. Sometimes they are dedicated, sometimes they're not.
In the city, as far as, yeah, thank you, Russ.
Subdivision process, the city does not take ownership of the detention facilities, ponds. We may have easements where they go into public facilities, but we do include language that gives the city, as you saw here, the authority to go into emergency maintenance activities but no, we don't in dedications to set the pond.
So going forward, would it be more beneficial from a maintenance standpoint to have those ponds, granted there's a cost to it, but to have those ponds, retention facilities dedicated to the city?
I can only speak on one part of that where our stormwater department isn't set up to have, We have some that have been in the past dedicated to us from the nineties that we do have that the city owns and maintains. But if we were to add in more and take on a lot more ponds, we would have to have a lot more.
And I totally respect that and understand that. I'm just from a philosophical question. Is it better to move forward with those ponds being dedicated to the city, recognizing that there are going to be costs associated with that for the city? Or do we continue down this path of just kind of buyer beware type situation and they don't get maintained? And then you've got a situation where you're trying to put out a fire of 200 people saying, how do we take care of this? And so from a water quality standpoint, granted, there's a cost to it and so forth, but it would seem to me that we would eliminate the problems of purchasers not knowing what their responsibilities are by moving forward and accepting the responsibility of these retention ponds.
But wouldn't that put us back into that discussion? That we would have to take over all of them for it to be equitable to take on the new ones.
Well, I guess I would say from this day forward, we chart a new path as to these other problems that we have here. They have to be handled individually. I mean, you're going to run into some folks that just, I ain't going to do it. You're going to have to incentivize them somehow with penalties to get it done, or the city does and then liens the property. Other properties, you're going to have to educate, and hopefully, there are some neighborhoods that will step forward and maintain their situation. But I think going forward, we need to change policy and recognize that this has been a problem. It's a problem in every community. And we've got Christy back here that's dealt with City Mill Creek. She has experience there, and I'm sure David has experience in other municipalities. It's a problem everywhere. But
yeah, I think though, that I agree with you. Like, it's been a problem, but I think that in the last couple of years, we've really dedicated the staff to get the problem, get a plan for the problem. And I think as we move forward, what we're going to see is the problem become dissipated, because we're going to get these into compliance, and there's going to be ongoing monitoring of them.
You are never going to get to a place where, Kim, where you have 100 homeowners that are in agreement of how do we maintain a pond on a consistent basis. You're going to have some neighborhoods that say, we're not going to do it. Some that are going to jump forward and.
Right. And that's then when the city steps in, does it for them and bills them.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, I think moving forward, we have to have a policy change and take the responsibility on of these ponds. We've got an NPDES problem, that water quality that potentially jeopardize storm drainage permit for the city. So.
Yeah.
And I think some of the phone calls that we're hearing about, and you saying, when this happens, you just have all these phone calls, and I'm sure emails as well, is people feel blindsided by it, particularly when there's no HOA. Because people, like we're saying, it's in the paperwork, probably you initial it. But people, I don't understand exactly how a retention pond works, or what it takes, especially a vault, or what it takes to maintain it. And without an HOA, who's responsible for maintaining it?
And I would agree with you that there's probably an initial blindsiding, but I will tell you that Taylor and Shannon and those folks in stormwater, it's a long education process before we're going to get to the point that, hey, we're going to do this ourselves and we're going to charge you. There's a lot of education. There's a lot of time involved that Taylor puts into these storm ponds to educate and try to organize them first. And then at the point, there's some that you're right. You're just not going to get 200 folks together. So we're going to do it, and we're going to have to bill you. It's just the reality of it. Right. But there is an initial blindside, but there's a great education, and this program that he showed you tonight, it will work. We just need to give it some time.
We haven't done this for the last 30 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Now we're bringing it to all their attention.
Yeah.
I think you will get compliance. If not, the first time they see a bill, they're like, okay, well, we need to set this aside so the city doesn't do it to us again next time.
Yeah.
Taylor, is kind of the practical side of that in your education. I'm looking at some of these pictures and I'm seeing some lock gates, padlocks. who have you found typically controls those? And I mean, in your conversations, I'm assuming the residents aren't even aware that they have the legal right to access these areas, let alone a responsibility to take care of them.
Yeah, great question. So that's very hit and miss, whether there's a lock on it to begin with or not. Whose lock on it could be from the county from way back when it was a county thing, because the county had a whole different kind of approach to these situations right now. And so HOA lock, county old lock, city locks, no locks at all. And that's also, that's why we want putting these posters and flyers up on the fences the last 2 years when we do our inspections, is to kind of start that awareness of like, this is what this is, if you did not know. And this is what, you can find out these information about what it is. And then us or the conservation district to help with technical assistance to kind of talk through potentially what to do to get it into, working order. But that is definitely a big thing, is a lot of them I can't actually access to get a proper inspection. I can still do my inspection outside. It's not going to be as great, but it's still considered an inspection. I would love to be able to have access to every single one and look into all the manholes and every part of it to get a really comprehensive inspection done, so I can give a better notification of what's out of compliance. But you hit it on the head. There's not a lot of people that know that they have these within their neighborhoods, or what they do, or if they have access to it. If they can be in it, they can go in it, it's theirs. And they can figure things out on their own if they really wanted to, but nobody does.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's just, I'm assuming, you and Aaron have thought of this and are taking care of it. I just want to make sure that, if you as a professional who's very familiar with all this stuff, legally, you can't go in there, but if you don't have access, I want to make sure that we're not asking someone to take care of an area and they feel like they don't have access.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we have something in place to help them with that, and, even if it's, again, cleared with Greg and everything, telling them you can go cut that lock off and go in there and weed whack it if you want, just as long as there's something like that in place for those people.
Yep.
So now, one quick question, Taylor, and it may not be quick, but what's the connection for those who may not be aware between these detention facilities and the lake water quality?
Oh yeah. Great question. A lot of folks don't know that we have a lot of stormwater that runs into the lake, whether it's just straight off the streets. Most of the part it's treated. Some of the instances there's no treatment, but the idea is that, these ponds, they treat the water as best as possible. And then they all end up flowing to some sort of water body, whether it is the lake, which I would say a large percentage of, the infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure flows to the lake. There are portions that flow away down to EB, down to the south end, but everything from north over flows in. These ponds play a huge role in our water quality of our streams and our lake. From the cities, from all our public facilities that we maintain, the ones that are maintained regularly by homeowners, from commercial, residential ones, they play a huge part in why our lake is doing so well. Because, continued regular maintenance over time becomes cheaper. Continued regular maintenance over time creates better water quality. And we're definitely seeing it. Like, there are issues, sporadic throughout the city. But for the most part, things are operating really well. And we have a really good program in place to keep the maintenance going, especially on the public side. These facilities play a huge role in maintaining our water quality for our streams, fish, and our lakes and recreation.
Yeah, from what I see an improvement in the stormwater quality management. What you guys are doing, your team, like Brett referenced, like the increase in attention and detail to that, and the improvement of the water clarity in the lake, which is a reflection of the purity of the water, right? The cleanliness of the water. And so we're making significant improvement there. So thank you to you and your team for the efforts there. It's very much appreciated.
No, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Anything else for Taylor? All right, great. Hey, Taylor, great presentation. I appreciate your leadership on this topic in the city. You're doing a great job, and tell Shannon the same thing.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right, we're going to go to Director Halverson. And I would ask, we want to hear what you have to say. But for time's sake, I would ask you to be laser.
I will be laser.
Okay.
But I can't guarantee you.
No, I got it. I got it.
All right, let's roll. Let's go. Greetings, council. My name is Aaron Halverson. I am the Public Works Director. And before you, I have the city department report, and there are, I don't know, 4 or 5 points that I wanted to make tonight. And they're kind of disappointing, but let's get through it anyway. So the 131st Avenue Sewer Main projects listed in this Lake Stevens Sewer District's comprehensive plan is a 2025 project. Before you, you have an ILA between the city and the sewer district for construction of that sewer main. It's right here near the Public Works shop. Now, they've listed it in their CIP as a project with $1.2 million in funding. The current ILA you have before you, I think they offer connection fees, something like $58,000 for construction of the sewer main. Not ideal. Here we are. When I went to the recent Joint Utility Committee meeting a few months ago, I said, this is not a developer extension. This is an ILA. It's in the right of way. It's between 2 jurisdictions. This is not the right kind of agreement. They disagreed with me pretty aggressively. I stood my ground. It is an ILA, come to find out. Everyone's surprised occasionally. And so the current ILA, it doesn't address cost sharing, as I mentioned. You can see in the department report, I have a response from General Manager Lowe. I sent her an email just saying, look, I've got to tell the council this thing. They're going to ask these questions and I don't have good answers for you. So it'd be good if you typed up some answers. So she did. So she says she's interested, the district's interested in a cost sharing at $700,000, something around half the price of the sewer main construction. Clearly, that's less than what they've allocated in their CIP, and it doesn't cover design or any other cost, administrative costs. So we're still negotiating. I think it's a bit of gamesmanship. I also don't quite understand why the $700,000 couldn't be included in the current ILA. I don't know, but apparently there's some other future ILA that will deal with this matter. Again, now, the third point is the unification agreement requires the district implement local improvement districts to provide sewer service in the industrial zone land upon annexation by the district, right? So this is something that Councilmember Tagent has alluded to several times. When the district annexed the industrial area, they were quite frankly obligated to organize ULIDs and fund construction of sewer mains in that area. They've never done it. It's been 10 or 15 years. Now here we are, the city is going to go ahead and put in the first leg of sewer main. It's kind of interesting. The fourth point, the district has approved a down payment for a building that's intended for the Sunnyside property. Now, council should know that the city owns the Sunnyside property and leases it back to the sewer district. And in the lease agreement, it says that the city must approve any change to buildings or structures on our property, on your property. So you're not obligated to approve that change. We've offered the building, General Manager Lowe's response is here, but the building they're interested in constructing is a parking structure for their Vector truck and I think some shop area so that they can maintain pumps and so forth. Given the current court battle that's ongoing in the assumption effort, we actually don't, it probably isn't the best interest of the city or the district to construct that building on city property. It's probably better to have that centralized at Public Works. But that's just an important point for you guys to be aware of. Finally, the city has been really gracious in extending right-of-way permits for this downtown area. They continue to close the road. They continue to delay our Main Street project. This is just a point of leverage for the city to say, enough's enough. We're not going to extend your right-of-way permits anymore. Figure it out. We're not playing nice. Anyway, there's the memo. Take it for what it's worth. Any questions?
I got a couple questions.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
Just quickly, real easy one. Why aren't we going all the way to Hartford Road on your little schematic drawing here? It seems like we're a little short of that.
I think we're taking the sewer main all the way to Hartford.
Not according to your map.
Uh-oh.
I think it goes right up to that little three-way.
Oh, yeah. Why is
Okay,
it that
well, I
way?
guess I'm not reading the map correct then.
Why is
Okay,
it that way?
Well, as long as it does, that's fine.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
project area doesn't indicate that.
Yeah, it just goes past that little storage unit space. Right before.
To the intersection of Hartford.
That's correct.
Okay, great. And then, Hopefully we'll have some comments from our city attorney on this document here in a little bit, but I was curious on the reimbursable item number 12. It says that we're going to be holding the recovery contract for folks that are hooking up to that sewer in the future, correct?
That's correct.
But yet if we don't provide the district with information regarding the current contract name, address, and telephone number of the person, every 2 years, then that recovery contract is null and void.
Yeah.
I just don't think the city's probably going to do that on a regular basis every 2 years. And so this district has the ability to void $700,000 in recoverables, potentially.
Sure.
Based on a bookkeeping error. I would request I mean, if we're the person that's holding a recovery contract, why wouldn't we be responsible for that information? And keep it to ourselves, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
No, I
So
don't
you
have
agree?
I don't have it. I agree with you. Look, I ran a much smaller sewer district in Lake Forest Park for years, and we had these cost recovery agreements all over, and we tracked as the property changed and made sure that the developer was reimbursed for any new connections, because that's the right thing to do. It is strange language to have in that.
Well, I guess who cares if the property changes owner? It's the point of connection is when you contact the person, the chain of title. Okay. I thought maybe I was missing something there. And then I guess just lastly, I would appreciate our city attorney's comments on this document as well, if he has anything tonight.
I don't think he's on tonight.
Oh, there he is. Magically.
No, I'm here. I will just say that I have commented on this agreement a number of times. I have raised issues that you are raising at the council dais. I have raised issues that Aaron is raising. And the response back from the sewer district is the response that you're reading from their manager. And it's a very frustrating process. Do I think this is a good agreement? No, it's a horrible agreement. but this is what the district is offering. And would I recommend that you sign it? No, I wouldn't recommend, but it's certainly your decision. And how bad do we want to get this project going? How long do we want to wait for cooperation by the district? These are issues that are on the table right now. But let me assure you that I have expressed many times to the district my thoughts about this agreement, trying to convince them that we are not a developer, that a developer extension agreement is inappropriate, and the provisions of that agreement that they would enter into with a private developer who's going to sell lots and homes is not appropriate for this particular agreement, but it simply falls on deaf ears at the district, either deaf ears or they just don't want to do it. And that's where we're at.
Do you mind if I add some additional information? I'm Kim Klinkers, the city engineer, and I work with Aaron, and I've been in email correspondence with General Manager Lowe for the past year regarding this issue. I just wanted to add to the conversation. I feel like we're getting closer to an additional cost sharing agreement for the sewer district to provide a proportionate share of the capital related costs for us to construct this project. I do have an email from General Manager Lowe 2 weeks ago. She had the construction cost estimate that the city has for our final plans and specs. And she added some notes on the side for discussion purposes, about what the sewer district potentially would contribute for a proportionate cost share. So we have a separate bid items down below that are specific to sewer improvements. And she indicated 100% cost sharing from the sewer district. And then in addition, there's other roadway improvements we're planning to construct a multi-use path and some LID stormwater improvements that are over and above just the sewer infrastructure. And there's some lump sum expenses like traffic control and mobilization that she put like a 50% cost share on. So those initial numbers for the sewer construction equate to about $715,000 was what the notes I got for her. And I think these are just preliminary numbers to start the conversation. The other construction related expenses equated to $400,000. And then sharing in some contingency, it looked like potentially they were willing to contribute up to $1.2 million was the proportionate share of the city's capital project related to sewer. General Manager Lowe requested that Director Halverson and I try to set up a coordination meeting with her early March to continue the negotiations and come up with an additional agreement that we would bring to council for your action. In addition to the sewer district's board would need to be approved and potentially have a budget amendment to incorporate that additional revenue source. And we would get that all locked in before moving forward with advertising for construction. We're still, trying to construct this project this summer, and we're trying to target an ad date like in April or May. So that's an additional update, and I can try to take more questions about that if you like.
Did Director Halverson indicate that a few minutes ago that the sewer district thinks that that should be in a separate document?
Yeah, be a separate, separate interlocal agreement. That's correct.
It's taken us about a year. I went through all the different emails, and in March 2024 was when we had the 90% plans from the city's design team that we shared with the sewer district, because we outreached to utility for utility coordination, other stakeholders. And that was when they came back and asked for us to complete a DEA application for the developer extension agreement. We submitted a $5,000 deposit for that. We had to provide title reports for the public workshop. And so that kind of started the draft of the initial DEA. And then there was more comments and discussions on it later last year. And as Director Halverson mentioned in the Joint Utility Commission meeting, was kind of the discussions where the city really thought an ILA was more appropriate to address this type of agreement. But as Greg mentioned as well, this is kind of where we're at. We've gone back and forth quite a bit trying to come up with an agreement.
So the current hope, which is always a good course of action, is that you guys are going to nail this down first part of March.
That was the 2 weeks ago, I got that cost information from General Manager Lowe. And I think just last week, she asked if we could schedule a meeting the first week in March to try to get this pulled together and drafted, because we need council and board action to solidify it.
Okay, great. Well, I hope that some of the sewer commissioners will weigh in and make that happen, because I know they want this project. They've said they want this project.
Yeah.
So hopefully they will jump in and get that 1st of March timeframe nailed down for us, hopefully.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to laugh, but I do so because this simple agreement has taken 9 months. And so
I got it.
okay. I just didn't want you to miss the purpose of the laugh.
Anything else on this subject? All right, dead horse. So let's move forward to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion to pass the consent agenda and a second. Do I have any discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, pass that. So we're gonna go into 3 topics. Let's see how the first one goes first, and let's go with the public hearing amended ordinance 1188 comp plan. David Leviton.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just a real quick, what do you think on time frame here?
This should just be a couple minutes for mine, so we should be able to.
Your boss says 5 minutes.
If you need to make a motion to extend the meeting, we still should be done.
Let's shoot for 5.
5 minutes. Got it.
Let's do it.
Let me just queue up my 62 slide presentation. So
Only 62.
Brett's going to start the clock up there in a minute.
So David Levitan, Principal Planner. So we are here tonight just to hold a public hearing as required by state law for some minor amendments to the 2024 comprehensive plan, which the city council adopted back on October 22nd last year. So just a quick overview of the adoption process. There's going to be an opportunity for public comment after I give my presentation. Council will have the opportunity to have discussion and deliberation. And then we are asking you to approve the proposed amendments to Ordinance 1188, which was reviewed by Greg. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that. So just a little bit, we had issued the plan back at the end of July, issued the public hearings draft on September 27th. The Planning Commission held their public hearings on October 2nd and October 9th, forwarded a recommendation to City Council to approve ordinances 1188 for the comprehensive plan and future land use map, and ordinance 1189 for the concurrent rezones. The City Council held their own public hearing on October 22nd, where they accepted the Planning Commission's recommendation on those two ordinances. So following that, we forwarded the copies of the plan and the proposed rezones to the Department of Commerce. It took them a little bit of time for them to get their comments back to us. They identified a couple of topics where they thought the plan wasn't fully compliant with the Growth Management Act, specifically on providing a quantitative analysis of emergency housing. We had been utilizing some earlier guidance from Commerce, but we've now completed that analysis. That is Exhibit B or Appendix B to the comprehensive plan. That's included in Exhibit A of the ordinance tonight. And then also needed to do some additional updates to the housing element to talk about, excuse me, adequate provisions for certain types of housing. They basically requested that we beef up our analysis a little bit. So we went ahead and did that both within the housing element and within the land capacity analysis. So as far as the revisions that were made, those are included in Exhibit A to Attachment 1, packet pages 91 and 92, primarily for the housing element, and packet pages 116 through 129 for the land capacity analysis. There are no other changes besides those included in Exhibit A to the comprehensive plan, so we're not looking at any changes to the land use map or any other chapters or appendices of the plan. Commerce has reviewed this updated version and given it its blessing, so we should be good on the Commerce side of things. So just as far as tonight, this is the required City Council public hearing. The Planning Commission did hold their public hearing on February 5th, where they made a recommendation to approve the amendments as shown in Exhibit A to Attachment 1. And so this evening, there will be an opportunity for the public to provide any oral testimony. We have not received any public comments as of February 24th and through today. SEPA addendum was issued for the proposal. And so as far as staff and the Planning Commission's recommendation, as far as this evening, is to take any oral testimony, deliberate, ask any questions of staff, consider the Planning Commission's recommendation, and then staff is recommending that you adopt the proposed amendments to Ordinance 1188. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on this or on stormwater management or on anything else that we have to talk about tonight.
All right, do we have any questions for David? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing on this. And with that, I will open up the floor to citizens' comments just on amended ordinance 1188. Is there anyone who wishes to provide comments on this ordinance? Anybody online?
Anyone online, go ahead and raise your digital hand and I'll bring you in to make comments on item 11A.
We have no comments by the council.
Were there any comments at the Planning Commission?
There were just some questions about, the rationale for this, and they had some kind of went into a larger discussion of housing needs, but kind of explained just that the focus of this was really to provide that quantitative analysis as required, but kind of by Commerce's amended interpretation of the Growth Management Act as amended by House Bill 1220. So no, they were generally comfortable and didn't have any real kind of substantive comments.
And no public comments either.
No public comments there either.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. And are we doing an action on this tonight or?
Yeah, so we are requesting that you take action to approve the amended ordinance 1188.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and I'll ask for action by the council.
Move to approve the amended ordinance 1188.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve amended ordinance 1188 and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, good job, David. Good work
All
on
right.
that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so question on action item 12. Do we need to table this item or are we gonna beat this one down a little further? What are we doing?
We are open to your ideas, Mayor. So I just, as a final update, our DEA deposit that was submitted in the spring of last year it expired. We received that notice from the sewer district in January. And so we requested an extension that was brought to their board in February, just a few weeks ago, and they discussed it. We listened to the meeting and decided to grant that extension. And the discussion about this ILA, was brought up and they
Okay, so we do need to.
shared that, that we were planning to bring this ILA to council for direction and action. I think it's probably still an option to table it and probably bring it back in March if that's your preference.
Okay, is that your brief to the council?
What do you think?
I think that's our brief to the council.
Okay, perfect. Council.
I guess maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but I guess what would be the alternative? Why not just run the sewer line off that manhole and take it up to our public works and call it good? And just do it rather than running all the way up to Hartford. Because as you indicated, we spent 9 months trying to negotiate a document with the sewer district. Going back in my records, we started talking about this in early 23. This is what is it, March, almost to 2 years later. And we don't have it. I mean, we don't even have the plans approved yet. So, I mean, why don't we just run it up the sewer, public works building, solve our issue and get this done?
I think I think you have I really think you have two options. I think you can put your faith in the sewer district and say, yeah, they're going to negotiate in good faith over the next 30, 60 days for a cost sharing agreement for construction of this sewer main. Or, and we're going to hold our nose and sign and approve this contract. Or, the other alternative, I suppose, is to just do an extension to the public works shop. I probably wouldn't recommend that. Because there are other things we're going to be doing in the roadway, like sidewalks and so forth. It just makes sense to put a sewer main in at the same time. The other option is we just build it and use the taxes that are being generated from the sewer utility tax that can fund this sewer main and get it done.
So Aaron, tell me, what's the drop dead time? What's the drop dead date on a couple of things? One, for us to do this extension agreement, and two, to get out to bid, right? Like, what's our drop dead date that we need a decision?
I don't know if we have a drop dead date necessarily. Kim, do you have an answer to that? No. Yeah.
Yeah, but if we want to get out to bid in April, we've got a drop dead date, right?
Yeah, probably the end of March. The second meeting in March is our drop dead date to approve
Okay.
this contract.
So.
Do we want to table it and try to talk about it?
Would it
at
be
the joint-
appropriate to table it to mid-March
Yeah, that's fine.
and then shift from there?
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, we'll see how negotiable the sewer district really is.
Well, I have faith in their commissioners that they're going to put a little pressure on this and make it happen. I've got faith.
We had a kumbaya back, 18 months ago where we said we'd split the cost 50-50 and everybody nodded and said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
Yeah.
This is what a win for them.
2025.
They were supposed to do it all
I get that.
on their own dime. So what a win. We're splitting it.
Yeah.
I've got faith, so I would ask that we table this action item until, say, mid-March to
Yeah,
get a little
that's fine.
more fidelity.
Yep.
Okay, can I get a motion for that? Right.
I motion to table it until mid-March.
Second.
Okay, you have a motion to table this item until March, mid-March, and second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Great. So Chrissy, what do you need? 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm
Okay.
calling myself the
Before
closer,
you
5
start-
minutes.
Before you start, do you need 5 or 10 minutes? Because we have to extend the meeting first.
I would say 10 because we do have an applicant owner who's been waiting here through the meeting and
Yeah,
they
and
would
they've
like
been
to
waiting
speak.
super patient.
They have, they've been great.
And they've been very enthralled in all of our discussions, I can tell.
10 would be gracious.
Okay. I know. So 10 minutes? Okay, so can I get a motion to extend our city council meeting by 10 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are extended 10 minutes. Go.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, City Council. Christy Schmidt, Planning Manager, the closer of council meetings. This evening, I'm here to present Lakeview Flats. The development agreement is coming back to you for a potential revision. And for those of you who may not have been here 3 years ago, within your packet, I included a staff report with background information, along with the original resolution, the recorded DA back from June 2022, along with new proposed renderings for revised building and schematic plans. And I would like to point out that Brian Lewandowski, the owner, and his partner Chris Adams are both here this evening, and they would like to speak later on. So as far as the background goes, the City Council approved the resolution back in June, 3 years ago. Since then, the developer has acted in good faith. They've proceeded ahead with the terms of the development agreement. They purchased the property from the city. So if you were to turn around from your dais, it would be south of you. There's a little 0.43 acre parcel right behind you to be developed. So they went ahead, purchased the property from the city. They submitted all their land use permits to the city. Those were approved with building permits and construction plans back in March of 2024. So just to refresh your memory really quick, for those of you who were not here on City Council, the building as proposed is a 3-story building, mixed use, commercial on the ground floor, approximately 17,000 square feet. Room for 3 tenants along with a restaurant user. It does have outdoor dining with 6 residential units. And it does include 26 on-site stalls along with some supplemented public parking and off-street parking stalls. So these are just some of the renderings of the existing 3-story proposal. So due to changes in the financial market, the owner has been unable to construct the 3-story mixed-use building. This is an aerial of it. So you can see we sit here in the mill just north with North Cove Park and the post office. What they're looking at is proposing a new modified building. It's reduced approximately 7,200 square feet. It is a 2-story building. These are just conceptual renderings. So they do anticipate having should the city council authorize them to proceed ahead with the new DA, they are looking at a 2-story building, approximately 9,000, 10,000 square feet, the same footprint with a single user. They do anticipate in putting in an elevator shaft. So this way it opens it up to multiple users in the future and just doesn't tie them to one user. You can see the square footages on the bottom, and here's the picture, what would be the Marketplace or Festival Street Road and corner from Main Street. And here's the schematic. And with that, in all honesty, since we're short on time, I'd love to turn it over to Brian and Chris so they can get their words in.
Awesome, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for that summary, Christy. She basically nailed it, so I'll be super brief. My name is Brian Lewandowski, owner of Lakeview Flats right there. Chris Adams, one of our other owners. And yeah, we're basically here just asking if you want to give us the opportunity to explore the possibilities of a 2-story design idea. We're simplifying it, making it much less complex, taking it from 3 stories and taking it from mixed use and making it 2-story all commercial. So this would now, this is what we now believe to be the highest and best use of this location in this current financial market. So it would be a large, generous square footage gathering space for the city. A coffee shop, restaurant, all-day hangout place that we could go and gather in our city center and host events and of the like. So with that, we just wanted to be here and answer questions. I kept it real brief. I did not read you my 3-page summary because of what time it is. So yeah, Chris, do you have anything you want to add? Okay, great.
Any questions for Brian?
I just don't want to cut you short. You've been waiting this whole meeting.
It's all right.
No other bullet points in your 3 pages then?
Yeah, I could talk extensively. It's been years in the works, and we worked the business model from the residential units, especially from long-term rentals to for sale condominiums to short-term rentals as 6 individual VRBOs and management and everything else. But the convolutedness of the both spaces and the limited parking and it just made it that I now believe this is our best option.
Anything else for Brian?
So how far apart, I mean, without disclosing details, so the current financial market, it doesn't pencil. So what needs to change for that to pencil to make the 3-story a viable option, or is 3-story the max that you can go?
Do you want to make the 3-story pencil, it would take a lot. And I would venture to say that I don't think anybody in the foreseeable 3 decades could ever make the 3-story model work now. Does that answer your question?
So it's not just the current financial market. 30 years is a long time.
Yes, it was the changing financial market from when a short time ago, right? But when interest rates were 3% and now we're more than double that to get stuff done, and the changing economy in general, right? The unsure of what we have going on, all those things together.
How did, and I saw this somewhere, but the original agreement, I think you were to do something within 18 months of approval. Is that right?
Very possibly. I can't speak directly to the
is that-
details, but
Is that still part of the going forward? Is with the revision, we're 18 months from this point forward?
You are correct. There was a 18-month clause for them to enact their permits and get moving. So they do have their permits. They have been issued and they have been extended. So they've met those terms. It is up to city council
But the
because.
permits are for a 3-story building.
Correct, yes. So under this provision, should the council give their blessing this evening, the applicant would have to come back to the city council with a brand new, fresh, entire DA agreement and start the process over again.
So what are,
So those terms would be open for negotiation.
so what are we considering tonight then?
Because this isn't an action item.
No, we are looking for city council's feedback to whether they'd be supportive of staff moving forward and working with the applicant to bring you forth a brand new development agreement to reflect this new viable proposal according to the applicant and owner.
and in full transparency, we've gone to the city multiple times, keeping them very well informed, and they've been great to work with. There's nothing bad to say about the city at all. We even sat down and had a meeting and laid out the entire budget from the soft cost to the hard cost to every line item on the construction budget and laid it out to them, current market rents and how the business model would actually work. And all 3 of those scenarios I talked about. And we even entertained the ideas of selling it to a different developer if that's what the city should choose as the best option. We've entertained the idea of selling the land back to the city if that's what the city should choose that they think is highest and best. So it's such an incredible spot right there that this is more of a collaboration. We really want this to be the best thing it can for the city.
Yeah, and I appreciate all that. I know you've done a lot of work on this project. I'm just more curious about the mechanics of the agreement, just to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing or facilitating the process as much as possible. So.
Any other questions for Brian?
I'm sorry, just to clarify, where exactly is this again? Is it
Right there.
Yes, right
It's
here.
right
That's what I
there.
thought.
Yeah,
Are we like
yeah.
right in our backyard here?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, I would be supportive of, I mean, it is a challenge out there right now and has been for a while. I mean, I would be in support of, accommodating their request and seeing what we can do out,
I have another question.
Good, Kim.
Does this incur more cost to the Lewandowski project for them to go into another agreement? Cost to, where they have to pay the city for more
Yes,
staff time and stuff?
That answer is yes.
yes.
Okay, I think we're all in north-south. We're okay with this. I think I think aesthetically it kind of makes sense, but we have a two-story mill and might be kind of strange to have a three-story to the south just immediately, so. And then so we put up with the museum as well, kind of stair step up, might look good. Great, I think you got enough guidance?
If that's a yes from council, then staff will work with the applicant to bring you back a fresh new development
I
agreement.
see all north-south, no east-west on this.
Thank you.
So I think we're good.
No east and weston,
What?
no east and weston.
No east and westons.
No
north-souths. Okay, so with that, great discussion tonight, good stuff. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, have a great night. Good to see you, Kim.